Okay, we'll try again. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, Rotarians and guests. We're so glad to have everyone here with us today. It is October 19th, and we are the Rotary Club of Gainesville. Guests and visiting Rotarians joining us on Zoom, please identify yourself in the chat. And if you're watching us on YouTube, please register your participation by sending an email to info@rotarygainesville.org. And to lead us in song, we have our very own Tom Collette. I think he's got something up his sleeve today, right?
Okay. Today we're going to sing a song because this fall it's been a little bumpy for the Gator football team, but we stick together in all kinds of weather, right? So we'll do We Are the Boys. Are you ready? Gordon. We are the boys of old Florida, Florida, where the girls are the fairest, the boys are the squarest of any old state down our way. Hey, we are all strong for old Florida, down where the old Gators play. In all kinds of weather, we all stick together for Florida. Go Gators! And now please join me as we pledge allegiance to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tom. And we have with us today Eric Spivey, who's going to lead us in prayer.
Join me in prayer. O Lord of creation, today we come and celebrate the change in seasons around us. The break of our summer heat and the arrival of cooler temperatures and blue skies remind us of your constant presence in all of the seasons of our life and our community. O Lord, we have all experienced so many changes over the last year and a half, hard changes in our businesses, personal lives, relationships, and even here in our club. And while change is hard, it reminds us of the ever-flowing power of life among us. Each change creates both an opportunity to say goodbye and to grieve, and an opportunity to welcome something new with excitement and vigor. And so as we face the changing seasons of life, may your presence comfort us in our grief and energize us in your possibilities. And now may the days like today motivate us to renew our commitment to the fundamentals of our club here in Gainesville and the opportunities around us to serve our community. In your name we pray. Amen.
Thank you very much, Eric. You may be seated. At this time, if we have any visiting Rotarians or if we have any Rotarians that brought a guest, we would like to acknowledge you at this time. Okay, all right. We have a number of announcements that we'll go through. Elena Frazier has an announcement, please.
I'm going to get a big head if you're going to applause before I even talk. I mean, that's fantastic. I'm going to make an announcement about the Sustainable Cambodia auction. And we have some wonderful committee members. If you're on the committee, would you please stand so people can see who you are? Richard, there we go. Look at this group. We've got a couple more out front there. So if you have anything you want to donate for the auction, please see one of these folks and be sure to give them your auction items. We do have a lot of new members here that may not know a lot about our project. It's Sustainable Cambodia was started by this club. We have clubs from all over the world that help with our project. We have Rotary clubs in Slovenia, Luxembourg, Canada, Hawaii, tons. How many? Australia. Oh, we have a huge project that comes out of Australia. And it was all started right here. So if you can, for the auction, please be sure to donate something, and please be sure to come to the auction, which is going to be on November the 11th. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Elena. Bob Mounts, we have an announcement about ethics in business.
This is my Halloween boo mask. Robert Mounts, on behalf of Scott Wensler and the Ethics and Business Award Committee, just to remind you that the deadline for submitting applications is just 2 weeks away, November 5th. And as of this date, we have no nominations. But if you recall, this is an award which has been given every year since 2011. That's 10 years. It honors and recognizes individuals of business in the community that exemplify the ideals of Rotary and consistently demonstrate strong commitment to the highest ethical practices of all facets of their business, and particularly in hard times. Those who take care of their employees should be recognized. If you also remember, last year's winners were Rich Blazer and Darren Cook, who the committee felt it was now or never to recognize them because they had sold their business Infinite Energy. But we had 5 nominees, some very good ones that should be renominated again. It's easy. And I've got a couple of copies of the application form, the nomination form with me. I encourage you to get those in within the next 2 weeks to Scott Wensler or to any member of the committee. The award process is to go first to the ambassadors at the Warren School of Business, that they interview the nominees and submit recommendations, try to rank them, and then the committee makes the final decision, and the award will be announced in January. So submit those nominations, get those good folks in that we know are there, and it's easy. You already wrote the application. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Robert. TJ, you have an announcement about fellowship upcoming.
I had another Chad joke, but I realized it was too mean to tell, so I'm not going to. Thursday at 6 p.m., we're going to be going to the UF libraries. Please, if you haven't signed up, do so. So far, we only have 3 people, so it'll be kind of embarrassing otherwise. So 6 p.m. Thursday, I'll buy you a beer afterward if you come. Thank you. The question was where we meet, and we'll be meeting in Library East, which conveniently is the building to the east of Library West. So we'll 6 o'clock that evening.
Okay. Deborah Newell, if you want to come up. Deborah, do you have an announcement?
Good afternoon, everyone. I just wanted to give a brief update on where we are with RY. At the current time, we have 2 students who were in the pipeline and vetted to go 2 years ago who are still within the age range to travel. And that is Jocelyn Riley and Key Scales. Neither one of them were sponsored by our club. They were sponsored by Sunrise, but we are kind of shepherding the process. And so it's been suggested that we be active in keeping the Rotary Youth Exchange in front of our community in as many ways as possible, and so that we're ready to recruit this coming fall, then for the coming years. So we're trying to generate some enthusiasm after a dry spell. And I have a great committee, several of whom are here to, not me, we have a great committee. Jan Legler, Bill Stasiswick, Marion Lee, let's see, David, Banker Bob, y'all can stand if you want, Guy, Jopling, and David, Tall David, I can't think of his last name right now. Anyway, great committee, and we may be coming to you to see if you'll volunteer to serve as a host family or help in some other ways. Thank you.
And Melanie, before you move along, just an announcement. We do have a visitor online for our meeting today from King City, California. Brett Saunders visiting with us today via Zoom.
Awesome. Welcome, Brett. Thank you very much, Tom, for letting us know. Okay, without further ado, I introduce you to our president, David Gracie.
Good afternoon, everybody, fellow Rotarians and guests. It's great to see everybody today. Eric Spivey, thank you for that beautiful invocation. Man, you nailed it. What a wonderful time of year. That just being able to see outside in the cade here and how beautiful the sky is. Thank you. And I also want to thank each of the Rotarians for your announcements today. Each of those 4 announcements. I know I feel like we do a lot of business before we bring our program up, but you know, these are 4 very important things. I'm going to just quickly reiterate. Elena, Sustainable Cambodia, that is coming right up. So folks, auction items, please see us about that. This is a big deal. Bob Mounts, the Ethics in Business Award with you and Scott Winsler and your committee. I know you guys are looking very carefully for a good recipient this year, and that is an award that has a lot of tradition. TJ, thanks for your Fun and Fellowship announcement. You're doing a lot of stuff with Fun and Fellowship that we haven't even really talked about yet. And TJ, maybe start thinking about helping Pete out with some of the humor here too, maybe. You could be a good guy for that. And Deborah, thank you for your Rotary Youth Exchange. She used the acronym RYE, but just to make sure you guys know what she's talking about, that's an important committee that has been very important to our club for a long time. And also, Deborah, congratulations on your new grandbaby. Okay, and thankfully, no one wanted to make this announcement, but where's Brendan? Brent, yeah, he's hiding back here. He asked me to do it. I want to remind you guys about the way lunch works here. We've got a really good deal worked out with Hills Barbecue and Catering. But I'll just be honest, transparent, whatever words you want to use there. The club is already subsidizing a lot of that expense. And the way we can better manage this is if we have folks RSVPing, registering for the meals. Joe Floyd is sending out a couple of reminders. Then I send out a kind of a last minute reminder on Friday, Saturday. If you guys would just let us know, we're able to hopefully hit that magic number of 50, which reduces our cost. So, Bill, what's your question, please? Well, we've extended that deadline, and you know, if you want to call it Friday at noon, that's fine for me. That would make it easier. But you know, to be clear, we want folks to be in this room. We want you to come and attend, whether you have lunch or not. That's the most important thing. So you will always be welcome here. But in terms of keeping our costs down, the piece that Brendan did not want to announce is what we decided in our board meeting, and that is for folks who just show up. Again, you're welcome, but the cost for your meal will not be $17, it will be $20 at the door. That's the only way we can manage this. So just be prepared for that. So that's going to be effective. I believe, Brendan, that's effective next week, is it not? Okay, thank you. A couple of other quick things, really just one more quick thing. We always recognize birthdays, and especially when someone happens to have a Tuesday birthday, I like to call you out. That's what you get for having a birthday on a Tuesday. But also when you have a wedding anniversary, and Richard Allan and Susan Maston have their wedding anniversary today. So happy anniversary, Richard. All right, we really do have an interesting and really an informative program. I've looked over Allan's presentation a little bit. I got to preview it a little bit, and he's got some good stuff to talk about. So I want to go ahead and get Allan up here. But before I do, I want to recognize that we're fortunate in our club. We've got a lot of folks that that do some neat things and are involved in some stuff, even outside of their profession that they do for the community. And we happen to have the immediate past chair of the Gainesville, I want to make sure I get this right, the Gainesville Alachua County Regional Airport Authority. Grace Horvath is not only the immediate past chair of that organization, but also she's perfect to introduce Allan because she's quite the itinerant business traveler. If you're in the Gainesville airport, you're likely to run into Grace because as the vice president of services at CPA America, she's in the airport a lot. So please welcome Grace up here to introduce Allan.
So it is my pleasure to introduce our speaker and our topic today. As David has mentioned, I've been very involved with the airport, and that was at the encouragement of my friend and fellow Rotarian, Susan Crowley. So in my career prior to CP America, I was very enmeshed in the community on a regular basis, which is how I know many of you, and through Rotary and through the business I was involved. Well, CP America is a national association which takes me out of the community most of the time. And so the airport was very important to me. I mean, I travel constantly. And so I thought, well, wow, this would be a great way that I can pursue my career goals and my enjoyment of travel and getting to see the country, but yet what a great way to stay involved in such an important facet of our community, our airport. So I have had the pleasure of working with Allan for going on 6 years now. I finished my second term as chair of the airport. And I would just tell you that it has been the most enriching and knowledge enhancing experience. For those of you who think that you know a lot about airports, I would challenge you at some point to volunteer to be on this authority. It is so amazingly complicated and so nuanced, and you have to have a real talented person to lead that and to do as well as we've done. I would say to you, we are extremely lucky to have this airport, and I would encourage all of you to use it. I fly about 150 to 200,000 miles a year. I do every one of them out of the Gainesville airport. I've converted a couple of you, but not all of you. So talk to me if you want to know about not driving home 2 hours at midnight. You'll appreciate it. In the meanwhile, we've been through expansion, which Allan's going to tell you about. We had the challenge of leading this resource through a global pandemic, which, as you know, hit our aviation industry very difficult times. And it couldn't have been in better hands than with Allan Penksa, who has been a commercial airport manager since 1987. He served as the CEO of our own airport since 2006. He has a lot of cred. I hope that you read his bio so that you can get the full detail. But some highlights are that he is currently the regional chair of FDOT's Continuing Aviation System Planning Process. A lot of acronyms in that industry, the CFASPP. He is working with other airport managers and professionals to help shape the future of air transportation in Florida. Among other things, he was selected as the FAA's Commercial Airport Manager of the Year in 2013. He's presided over more than $100 million in airport planning, including our own, and not just the buildings, but taxiway rehabilitations, hangars that are used for private aircraft and charters. It's just absolutely fascinating and amazing, and I'm very proud to have worked with him. Allan, will you please come and share with our club about our great airport? Thanks.
Okay, I don't know if, do we have it on screen?
I don't have a PowerPoint.
I'm sorry? Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Hey, hello, everyone. Yeah, I understand we don't have the PowerPoint, so it was emailed over to the chamber. But in any event, my name is Allan Penksa, and I apologize for that. Not sure what went wrong there, but yeah, as Grace said, you know, I've been the CEO at the airport since 2003 and been in this business a long time. And so now I'm going to have to wing it, not like I've never wung it before. But so, we just got through a new budgeting process, and I was so pleased, a little worried about the budget till I found out Grace was flying again, and so everything's A-OK now. As Grace mentioned, we've gone through a lot of changes and through COVID and a lot of certainly challenges over last year. But prior to that, the airport was on a tremendous trajectory. 2019 was our best year ever. We'd had one good year after another in terms of record enplanements. Many of you may remember back in the 1970s, there were in early 80s, we had 737s and 727s and things that went into the airport there. Stressed the pavements to no end, but so what happened then? Well, deregulation happened. Ronald Reagan, 1978 or so, they started talking about deregulation. Reagan came in around 80, and so the whole industry was turned up on its ear, where before the federal government was essentially telling air carriers where they were going to fly and how much money they were going to make and where they were going to go. It all of a sudden was the Wild West out there. So this isn't part of my regular program, but I just want to prelude that. Sounds like they're over there looking for it. So what happened to Gainesville? Well, yeah, that's what happened. You had Southwest, other different carriers come into the market, a lot of competition, and a lot of the bigger airplanes that were partially utilized coming in out of Gainesville all of a sudden were fairly empty. And so that couldn't continue. But since then, recently, we've had great success. So my first slide would have been how the enplanements at Gainesville have outstripped the population increases of both Alachua County and the city of Gainesville. We had tremendous numbers going up into 2019, and then what happened? Well, a worldwide pandemic. Our April 2020 enplanements were down at 5% of what they were in April of the previous year. And so, a big challenge, certainly budget-wise. The federal government did step up and helped us, and I see Jason Shanks here in the audience, and the rental cars equally, maybe even more so, were hurt by the pandemic. And so, we had to come back from that. The good thing is we never lost focus on what it is we needed to do and the fact that we were going to come out of this. So during that time, we used the opportunity to go ahead and complete some construction projects that we had on the books and took that leap of faith that things are going to come back and we're going to come back. So what we did was we completed about a $15 million terminal expansion. Have any of you happened to have been able to fly out? Okay, so I'm glad. Oh, wow. So I have a favorable crowd here, and I appreciate your business first and foremost. It's hard to sometimes fathom that Gainesville sits in what we call, in a lot of us in our industry, because I go to a lot of conferences, talk to a lot of airlines, is we call it the vortex of leakage, and we're sort of smack dab in the middle of it. So around us, we have some of the lowest fares, the busiest airports, leisure airports in the country. You can look at Tampa, you can look at Orlando, Jacksonville to a lesser extent, where you have just tremendous demand. And during COVID, the airlines, probably the only place they did well, where they could hold their own and actually bring on new capacity, was in Florida, going to beach resorts, going to places like Tampa and St. Pete Clearwater and Punta Gorda and Fort Lauderdale. So those airports actually did quite well during COVID. It was the business airports, because the business travel just immediately dried up. And Gainesville is, first and foremost a business airport. So while we have been coming back from that, we've seen that it's really a kind of a different demographic that we're appealing to right now. There are a lot of folks that had pent-up demand for travel, and they decided that, hey, I'm feeling better, I'm vaccinated, the case numbers are down, and I need to get out. I got to get out, and I've got to enjoy my life. And so that's what happened. We had a lot of folks that flew out of Gainesville, not because they were coming in as tourists to come into Gainesville, but the folks that were here
left. And the other part of that is they discovered how darn easy it is to fly out of Gainesville. And so we saw a lot of new people that had been trying us for the first time, and now they get to experience the new terminal building that we've created. We have 3 new gates. They have a lot of wonderful amenities that we hadn't had prior to under the old terminal. So much more spacious, lots of glass, open air. It's a very sleek and simple design. Those who have been there can see that it is a much better front door to our community than where we were, even though we had kept up with improving the terminal right along. So some of the amenities, charging stations and power at all our seats. We've got a pet relief area that's convenient for folks that travel with their pet. We've got 3 new food service outlets, not 3 new ones, but 2, and then adding a 3rd, and they're all going to be redone and branded. So more food options, more healthy choices, and we just signed an agreement with our current vendor, Tailwoods Concessions, and they're going to start work within the next month or so and start rehabilitating and putting in those new food options for you. Some of the other great amenities, lots of bathrooms with, we've got 2 other existing bathrooms that are being renovated right now. So that was an issue with the old terminal space. So we have a lot new restroom opportunities. Ladies will be happy, and gentlemen, places to put your bags, hooks, holders for your cell phone, all of that good stuff that we didn't have before. The other good news is that we're coming back in terms of new options for flying. Many of you have probably flown on our Dallas flight, started a couple of years ago. During the pandemic, we actually added capacity. So while the airlines were struggling to maintain their networks, American Airlines had enough faith in us to add a 3rd flight to Dallas, which has done very well. This month, we resumed flights to Miami. So we have a lot of folks that are at the university and professionals that have business in Miami, so they're happy to see that one come back. We rely on you to make that one work. It's a bigger airplane. It's an ERJ 175, one of the larger regional jets. Looks like a smaller version of the 737. And if we're going to make it work in Gainesville, we've got to reach business people and folks like you that travel down south. So please look into that. One thing that you will have noticed is if you haven't flown with us for a while, that our fares are much more competitive than they were. I was at the dentist the other day, the hygienist, a young gal, but she's been working on my teeth for 10 years, said, I got to tell you, I was in the new terminal and I went to travel to the Midwest. It was $100 more for the ticket, but it was well worth it because I didn't have to drive. I didn't have to pay for parking. I could be dropped off. I didn't have the tolls. I didn't have that uncertainty of getting in the car and driving 2 or 2.5 hours to a hub airport, getting up at the crack of dawn or maybe the night before, some people do, and actually rent a hotel to fly out of Orlando. That goes way beyond me, that you would do that to save $100 or $150. But, some people, they don't like to pay for parking. Well, they come out to our place, get dropped off. Other people just don't like to pay anything extra for airfare. But we do have a cost calculator. We ask that you look at it. It adds all that in for you. So when I did some checking of fares before I came down here, and in every instance, when you added in, when we compared Jacksonville and Orlando, when you added in what was a good competitive fare for airlines out of those airports, we were right there. And then when you added all those other costs in, it was a no-brainer. So in terms of the airport, though, where we're going beyond the terminal building, we have plans for a new parking garage. That prior to the pandemic was about an $11 million project. It has now gone up, unfortunately, to about a $15 million project. So we're watching construction costs very closely. There's a lot of money out there and certainly a lot of money chasing the same contractors that we had before the pandemic. And so those prices are going up. But we're still pushing on and hope to do a design build release sometime in the coming quarter. Other projects, a new bag handling system. We'd like to eventually get that screening machine out of the front lobby, get it to the back, put in a mini inline baggage system. So the first phase of that has already been approved by our board, and we'll be moving forward with a design for that one and bid here in the coming months. That project has an added benefit in that it gets every one of our counter locations opportunity to feed into that bag screening system, and allows us to take some space at the back of the house and create more airline office space. So when we do that, we'll be in a much better position. Oh, there we go.
Let me know where you want to advance it while we get it out.
You're all going to be ready to leave before I get the first slide. Well, we'll buzz through those. But part of that project is going to allow more airline space, office space, and that is going to allow us to certainly have a better environment for those airlines that we're constantly trying to attract. One of the great things about the terminal, other than the things that we've already talked about. Thank you. All right, I'll buzz through that. So there you can see, yes, how our employments have gone up over population. There's where we were, the red line, going for a new record high when boom, everything tanked. And 2020 was a really rough year, and we were just getting to where we were comfortable, about 90 or 91% of our employments in July, and then the Delta variant hit us. And so that flattened us out to about 76% of 2019 employments, but we're going back up again. Our employments have pretty much mirrored what's going on nationally. Florida resort locations, as I said, those were sort of the anomaly during COVID, but during for the rest of us that really rely on business travel, we've been hanging right there, doing a little bit better than the national average. The airlines, as I said, they continue to add load as we do better. So you can see that in the first 9 months, in terms of employments and in terms of available seats, we are almost approaching what we did all of last year. So we're heading in the right direction. My goal was to be at 75% of employments from 2019 at the end of the year, and we are beating that. So in July, as I said, we were about 91% of where we were. So we're very hopeful that that's going to continue in the right direction. Talked about this, don't want to go into it again, just to know that we continue to meet with airlines. Even though the airlines are trying to just reestablish their existing route structures, we're still meeting with them. We're going to events where we get to sit down and speed date with the airlines, give a pitch for Gainesville. We've got a good consultant. We put together our numbers, our demand, and the unique things about Gainesville to try and pique their interest. So this year we've already met with American, Delta, Southwest United, Silver Airways, and Breeze Airlines. We're not always able to meet with every airline, and sometimes, on our primary date list, we don't always get picked, but very often we do. There's a lot of interest in the up-and-coming area that we have here in North Central Florida. So our terminal building, again, there's the area that we added, about 15,200 square feet. What that slide doesn't show is the other things to the terminal that we did, including a new roof, HVAC upgrades, and a lot of existing infrastructure that was upgraded at the same time. If you go in there, it is a relaxed atmosphere. We put in acoustic panels to help keep down noise. We have a very now quiet HVAC system. Anything we can do to relieve that stress of that passenger. There's so many unknowns when you step out of that car and you take your bag and you go into that airport terminal. You got a very exciting and potentially stressful day ahead of you. We don't want Gainesville to be that link of your trip that causes you any anxiety. So when our customers tell us that they have an issue that's what we look for. How can we make that better for you? How can we make it easier? We don't always have, all of the resources in our airline operations that, some airports may. But as far as the Gainesville Regional Airport, we're going to do whatever we can do to make that a more enjoyable trip. So please let us know. We've got a website. You can give comments. You can certainly post comments on Facebook. We look at all of those, and whether it's TSA screening, did you have a good experience there? We will pass those comments on to TSA, and we meet with them regularly to see how can we fix that issue. There are things that they have to do and things we can affect and things we can't affect, but we're darn sure going to try. Some of the images, and thank you to some of our board members that are here today, Grace and Craig and Susan as a former board member. Everybody works together and have worked for years to try and make this project possible. You can see some of the images. Everything in the terminal was made to match, all new finishes, bright, clean, especially during the pandemic. You go in and you get a bright atmosphere that just, I think, feels clean. And keeping our bathrooms clean is one of our primary goals every day. And if I ever hear those comments, those get addressed immediately. That's anybody who goes into an airport restroom, you know what I mean after 150 or 200 people empty out of an airplane. Not a pretty sight. That's why we don't ever want to get those comments. Some of the concepts of our new food vending operations, all of them are going to match the terminal in some way. There will be some color changes. We're going to try and brand them all a little differently. They all have different names and they'll have different menus. So you'll feel like you have a lot of options available to you, even though we're not big enough to have all separately owned and operated food concessions. There's our baggage system on the left. You can't really see that one too well, but I talked about some of the benefits of that. More airline office space, more streamlined baggage, movement through the terminal and getting the machine out of the lobby, and more throughput eventually. We'll be able to put 2 screening machines eventually in the baggage room and, be able to handle capacity well into the future. The multimodal garage on the right, about 400 to 430 spaces depending. So a covered walkway from the garage right there to the terminal, a very short walk. And for those that want to protect their vehicle or want to be protected from the elements on the way over, you'll have that option. And it won't be the $22, $24, $26 that you're going to pay if you go into the garage in Orlando or Tampa. It'll be a very cost-effective. That's our goal, is to make it just a little bit of a premium over the existing surface parking. Huge job. When we talk about employment, I didn't really talk about that slide. We have about 440 employees that work at the various entities at the Gainesville Airport. It's about 30 on-site tenants, $374 million economic impact to our community. Some of that, about $100 million of that is direct impact, and the rest is tourism and what we add to that pot, and then the multiplier effect. So that was 2019 numbers, actually from 2016 data. It's more than that now. Part of what we don't talk about is the construction jobs that also come to the airport. At any given time, we're doing $4 or $5 million worth of construction. This project here is a major taxiway upgrade. There are a number of surfaces that we're going to be redoing, expanding, strengthening, and that's about a $14 million job right there. So we're going to keep some contractors busy there for quite a while. First phase of that is probably going to bid, it will bid, has to bid next April, and our board will consider that in the May meeting. That'll be about a $7 million of the $14 million total if FAA and I are both on the same page, and I think we are. Another project, about a $9 million project, we'll probably do half of it in the first phase, is strengthening and rehabilitating a lot of our general aviation pavements. We have a lot of growing general aviation customers or tenants. They employ a lot of folks. about as many on the GA side as on the airline side. We have about 200 people that work on the general aviation side and about a little over 200 to work on the airline side. What we're going to do here is we're going to strengthen a lot of pavements to allow heavier jets, more access to parking. Anybody who goes out there on a typical week will see all manner of corporate jets. We have regional charters, so regional jets chartering sports teams and various other activities. You name it. If it flies, we see it in a week, military and otherwise. So what we'll do here is allow area for more hangar development and heavier, larger business jets. We got some great tenants. I know I'm short of time here, but I'll tell you, University Air Center is our premier tenant on the general aviation side. They do about everything that a fixed base operator can do, from aircraft mechanics, avionics, transporting organs and emergency room staff, to running the blood flights for Life South. They are growing. Their principal is going to build a third hangar. We rent them one that we built. We rent them the GA terminal. They built their own hangar. Actually, we rent them 2 hangars of ours. And they're going to add a 4th hangar, a 12,000 square foot hangar in office space. That project is in design and permitting, and it will be completed within the next 9 to 12 months. They look to hire an additional 10 people over there, mechanics, and so that's a great project for the airport. A company you probably don't know about, Renia Aviation, they're an air charter business. They have been going great guns. COVID has been very, very good to the charter business. A lot of us don't feel comfortable flying packed in on airplanes, but charter is something a lot of folks that can afford it have been comfortable with. They also do aircraft interiors, so they'll take older aircraft and replace the interiors and get them looking brand new and very luxurious. They started with 4 employees and 2 aircraft. As you can see, today they have 40 airplanes and 40 employees and 11 aircraft. They operate around the country and do some international work. And their jet fleet is expected to expand to 20 to 25 jets. And this is their hub of operation. This is where their owner is, and most of their folks are. They are working with us. We're going to build a 12,000 square foot hangar. They're going to invest over $1 million. We've got about $500,000 that we're going to invest from FDOT funds. And we did an RFP, or a request for letters of interest, and they were the folks that were so interested in this to work with us to build this. So we're just starting a design build specification. We hope to have that hangar built also within the next year to 14 months. And lastly, I lost the slide. Okay. The airport industrial park. We partner with the city. The industrial park land is airport land, but the city actually markets the land and has built the infrastructure for the industrial park. And it's been a great partnership. And we've got a lot of interest in the available land. I don't want to go into too much detail, but I'm sure we'll have some announcements on new businesses in that park as well. So sorry for the mix-up on the slideshow.
If you have a question, please raise your hand, and Don Bugos will bring you the wireless mic here at the Cade Museum. We have one from online from Brett Saunders. He says and asks, including general aviation, how many flights per day on the average from GNV?
Including general aviation. General aviation is one thing that we don't really track, but we do, about 68, depending on a good year or a bad year, anywhere from 68 to 80,000 operations. That's a takeoff and a landing. So divide that by 2, and that's how many flights. Now, some of those are general aviation touch and goes and military operations, medical helicopters, you name it. The tower counts every takeoff and landing.
Please stand up and state your name. To your left there, Allan.
Hi, Allan. Brendan Shortley. Thank you for coming in. It was good meeting you earlier, and I did discover that he is a former Rotarian.
No,
so.
I've been to the Rotary before. No, I'm a former Kiwanian.
Right, okay. Yeah, I was going to say you were Rotarian and
Sorry,
Quadrian.
can I stay?
Well, we're trying to indoctrinate you, so I'll just keep saying you're Rotarian and you'll eventually join us. Wanted to thank you and then ask a question. Thank you for giving us a new word, fun word of the week, emplanements. Thank you for that. I didn't know that word. As far as questions go, we had members who have now moved to different clubs, but they're still Rotarians who used to give us constant updates years ago about the airport and its capacity, number of passengers per year. Evidently, there was a maximum threshold that if we passed it or went above it, we could accommodate larger planes, larger traffic, some kind of threshold, and maybe an FAA thing or a Homeland Security thing. I don't know, but he may still be involved with the airport. I don't want to name any names, but the point is I remember when I was a first member or new member, he used to say, okay, if we have so many thousand more passengers, we can get up to a threshold that we can be above and we can do more with our airport. And so if I'm mistaken or if he was mistaken, feel free to expand on that.
Yeah, I know. There really is no metric like that. The airlines, what they're interested in is putting butts in seats, as they say, filling capacity. So there is no magic number where, hey, if you surpass that, you're going to get a bigger terminal or a bigger runway. Those things don't really translate into activity. What translates into emplanements is economic activity in the community and the interest in flying local and using that service. What the airlines want to do is they want to actually, they've got a regional jet maybe that costs $70 million, or, they've got $100 million aircraft that, they, depending on what type of fleet they have, they want to maximize that asset, as anyone would. And so they're going to go to a market where they think that they can not only put people in that seat, but they can get the yield, the margin, the profit out of that they need to get. And that's what it's all about. I sit down with airline route planners every year, multiple times. And, what we have to show them is that there's enough demand here that we can fill that aircraft that they have in their fleet, right size that aircraft to the market, and make money for them. And it's not always easy to do. We are a smaller community. As I said, we have leakage, a lot of airports, competing airports around us. And those airports are very special in that they have some of the lowest yield tickets in the country. And so you're competing with an Orlando, a Tampa that might make 13 cents per passenger mile, versus us where we're at 27, 28, 31 even cents. So there's an economy of scale that has to be looked at. If you got a 150 passenger airplane, takes a lot less dollars per passenger, a lot less fuel per passenger to run that airplane. You got to be able to fill it up and compete. If you can't, you've got to show that, at least with the regional jets that are available, that you can make that airplane pay. It's a very long discussion, but in answer to your question, no, there's no magic number where if you hit a threshold, everything changes for you.
One last question.
Allan, John Cousins.
Hi, John.
Hi. February 8th, 1979, the airport opened. And the changes, being out there for 28 years, the changes that we've seen, there was nothing more discouraging to work there for 28 years and then having to get in your car and go to Orlando or go to Jacksonville to catch a flight. You made a promise that you were going to work with the airlines, get the rates down, and you did. Just unbelievable. So everything seems to be perfected. I don't know how much better you could make it. North Florida is pretty lucky. We got Allan Penksa. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you, John. And I appreciate that. One thing that we from day one tried to work with is listen to our customers. Where are you flying? What are you experiencing in terms of fares? And where are the disparities? And we made some trips to the airlines, especially with Delta, and they were receptive to getting some of those fares down and more competitive. And please check our fares, check them especially against Jacksonville and check them against the legacy airlines. you know, if we can't chase the $89 fare on Spirit out of Orlando. A lot of those fares really don't make money, but they surely are a loss leader. You know, but if you book early enough, or you stay a Saturday, or you do your a little bit of homework, and don't travel when it's peak demand, you can get a really good fare. And in general, I think we're competitive every day of the week with Jacksonville and most times with the other airports as well. 2 weeks ahead, the sweet spot. Just don't go into use the same computer to check those fares, because they know that you're doing that, and you'll see the fare actually go up. Go to a different something that has a different IP address or whatever. Just a little tip. Thank you.
Allan, thanks a lot. Great presentation. I'm glad you were able to improvise with our PowerPoint issue. And I think John kind of said what I was going to try to express, but I'll just quickly say that Grace and I were having lunch a long time ago when she pointed out how foolish it was for me to be driving to Jacksonville. I had a kind of a tight, really needed to get somewhere at a specific time that, anyway, Grace just pointed out that it's nuts not to fly out of Gainesville. If you can at all do it, it just makes much more sense. And I think the Gainesville Regional Airport is just another example of how the Gainesville community just kind of punches above its weight in terms of the quality of that resource for our, small, kind of relatively intimate community. So thank you, Allan. I've got a coin here quickly. And it has our Rotary four-way test. Did you say you were a Kiwanis member? Okay, wonderful. Well, with Rotary, one thing that we're proud of is our, with talking about ethics in business, we hold ourselves to a certain standard in our dealings with each other, on a personal and in a business level. And it's articulated in our four-way test of everything we think, say, or do. We ask, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? So we've got this coin to kind of commemorate your speaking to us today. And I, again, appreciate your being here today very much. Okay, and we've got our 50-50 drawing for the Rotary Reading Safari. And the number is 747, last three digits, 747. See you guys next Tuesday.